Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where today we will be taking a look at the Turm III. This tank has a very long name. I'm going to put it on screen now, and I'm not even going to attempt to say that. I'm just going to call it the Turms from now on. So, the Turms is an Era 2 premium medium with a current 25% discount on the base price, which leaves it at 9,700 gold. I have found that the Turms it's been quite a difficult tank to review. It is a good tank, but in my opinion, it feels ever so slightly worse than the Forad. And when I say ever so slightly, what I mean is, if the Forad were a 7 out of 10, the Turms is like a 6.8, 6.9 out of 10. The Forad has worse stats, but as we all know with this game, stats are not everything. The Turms feels just ever so slightly worse overall, but that does not in any way make it a bad tank. So is it worth getting? I'm leaning towards yes, and for 9,700 gold, that is cheaper. It's not cheap. It's, you know, there's money involved there, but it's not massively expensive. Not the massive prices that we have seen with Era 3 premiums, for example. So let's take a look at the Turms in a little bit more detail and compare it to the Forad. Both the Turms and the Forad have a 105mm primary gun, but the Turms has a 30mm secondary and the Forad has a 20mm secondary. The primary gun on the Turms has 449mm of pen on standard ammunition, 505mm on gold, and 250mm on secondary. Primary and gold will do an average of 460 alpha, while the secondary high explosive will do an average of 570 alpha. The secondary autocannon on the Turms has 192mm of pen on standard rounds and 55mm of pen on secondary rounds. Primary will do 30 average alpha, while the secondary will do 40 average alpha. The primary gun on the Forad has 400mm of pen on standard, 482mm on gold, and 125mm on secondary. Both the primary and the gold will do an average of 460 alpha per shot, so that's the same as the Turms, while the secondary will do an average of 570. Again, the same. The secondary autocannon on the Forad has 87mm of pen on standard, 45mm of pen on secondary rounds. The standard round will do an average of 25 alpha per shot, while the secondary will do an average of 30 alpha per shot. So I've said a lot there in a short space of time, but stepping back from a weaponry point of view, the Turms does have better weaponry. It does look better with what we've said so far. The Turms has 2,850 hit points, Forad has 2,700 hit points. The unboosted top speed of the Turms is 63 kilometers an hour. The Forad comes in at 65 kilometers an hour. Turms has 560 meters of view range, Forad has 520. And finally, Turms has 405 meters of moving concealment and 374 meters of still concealment, while the Forad has 407 and 375 meters respectively. So, at a very high level, the Turms has it's got better guns, it's got better weaponry, more hit points, it's slightly slower, only 3 kilometers an hour slower, so not really that much difference. It can see further, and it's got better concealment. And I say better concealment, I mean plus minus 2-3 meters, you know. Not a massive difference, but if we're looking at pure numbers, then yes, it has better concealment. It all sounds great for the Turms, but what I have found is this. The Turms is taller than the Forad, and it doesn't have the turret armor of the Forad. In my playtime, in my play experience with the Turms, it gets ammo racked more often than the Forad, and it's got a smaller autocannon clip. And this is where this for me personally is where the differences start to show. This is where it sort of falls ever so slightly in comparison to the Forad. It's the Turm's autocannon clip is 40 rounds. The Forad has 75. Both reload in 15 seconds, but that almost double clip size of the Forad means that in a 1 versus 1 encounter, the Forad can continue to output damage while the Turms is stuck on a reload. And because the Turms doesn't have great armor, you don't need massive penetration values on an autocannon to damage the Turms. So yeah, the Forad's autocannon is down on penetration by quite a lot, but really, if you're fighting in a 1-in-1 engagement, it doesn't really matter all that much because you're stuck on a reload, and that Forad that's next to you or in front of you or wherever it is, it's still pumping out damage and it's still going to get you. And for me, that is where the Turms, again, it's starting to fall, even though the statistics say it's better. The Turms, though, does have one thing that the Forad doesn't. It's got 12 degrees of gun depression. The Forad has 8. Now that is quite useful. That is very useful, especially when you're playing any kind of topography that has vertical changes. You know, you're playing up embankments, up hills. You know, Westfield is a good example. You're playing up the ridges. Or Nomenhan is another good one. You know, any map where you want to be peaking ridges, it's good to have 12 degrees of gun depression, and that really does help. But, like I've already mentioned, it doesn't really have any armor, so if you're spotted or you're seen, you're gonna take damage. It's not going to bounce anything. So as far as stats go, any advantage that the Turms has, in my opinion, any advantage that the Turms has is nullified by the survivability of the Forad. Because, yes, even though it's a medium, the Forad, like the the standard, the Brennus as well, the Tech Tree Forad, it bounces. That turret bounces. It will keep you alive in hull down situations in ways that the Turms won't. Yes, the Turms has better gun, better weaponry, better penetration, but its lack of survivability, especially against autocannons, we know the state of Era 2 right now. There's autocannons everywhere. There's ATGMs everywhere. Damage is everywhere. And yeah, the Turms doesn't have the armor to protect itself, and it is essentially a Leopard with an autocannon. And Leopards are not bad. I don't think anybody would argue that the Leopards are a bad series of tanks. They're not. But they don't really have the survivability of the other mediums around them. And like I've said before, you can have the best weapon system in the world, but it's no good to anyone if you're dead. So, it's not a bad tank, but I think the Forad is just ever so slightly better in that regard. Alright, let's take a look at the economy stats before closing this one out. The Turms has a 50% silver boost, 25% tank XP boost, 4% free XP boost, and a 10% crew XP boost. That is identical to the Forad, apart from the fact that the Forad has a free XP boost of 5%. So 5% free XP for the Forad, 4% free XP for the Turms. That might sway you. You might be grinding free XP, and if you're doing the long grind, then an extra 1% every game, you know, that will add up. But is it enough to make it a better tank? No, not in my opinion. So in summary then, is the Turms a bad tank? No, it's not. It is not a bad tank by any stretch. It's just not as survivable as the Forad. So, I have bought one because I like the Turms. It's a very, very powerful tank in War Thunder. Not as powerful in World of Tanks, but I do like the Turms as a vehicle. So I've bought one, but I'll let you guys decide on whether or not you want to buy one based on what I've said here. Okay folks, that's all I've got for this one. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.